Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back on another review. This time I saw Terror on the Prairie. This is a 2022 Western drama thriller film directed by Michael Polish, and it stars Gina Carano, Nick Searcy, Donald Cerrone, Heath Freeman, Gabriel Kane Day-Lewis, Reese Becker, uh, Matthias Hughes, Travis Mills, and Tyler Fisher. In this film, a pioneering family fights back against a gang of vicious outlaws that is terrorizing them on their newly built farm on the plains of Montana. So, what did I think of Terror on the Prairie? Well, again, this is the third film that I've seen from the Daily Wire, um, and I have been actively looking through, the stories and being like, oh, what could people see as really an issue? And I'm still failing to see it. I just thought this was a very well made Western that had a bit more of a brutal, realism to it than a lot of Westerns do, even though I like Westerns on both sides, and I'll explain that. But I really, other than some acting issues, sometimes pacing issues, and certain things not having a lot of setup to them, I still really liked this movie. I did. There are things that could be changed for sure, but I enjoyed it. But let me get to the cast. Gina Carano plays Hattie McAllister. She's a frontierswoman. She's living out in Montana with her husband and her two kids. Gina Carano, very well known from The Mandalorian, being fired for ultimately the same thing that Pedro Pascal did, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'm I'm sorry that people are so easily offended by something that shouldn't offend anybody, and then not offended by an actually offensive thing to say about a group of people that Pedro Pascal said, but I'm not getting into that. This is the first film Gina Carano did since that firing, and acting wise, I still think she has a long way to go. I've never thought her acting was amazing. I think her best acting to date has been um a movie I have up here, just trying to find it real quick. About to fall over. Uh, which is also a Western, but a Western of a different type, I'd say, which is Scorched Earth. And I will talk about stuff with that too. I do want to revisit that one sometime because I remember it being fun. But that I'd say that was her best acting performance so far. This one, I don't think she's bad. She fits fine. I don't think she sticks out like a sore thumb too much. Sometimes her voice doesn't fit fully. I'm not too keen on accents in America, so I don't. Somebody does mention, you, is that a Missouri accent I hear from you? But I think she does fine enough for what she has to do, and I think she looks like a badass during the scenes she has to be. Nick Searcy plays the captain. He's basically our villain of the story. He is um, here to get revenge on Hattie's husband for an accidental death. Um, Nick Searcy's been a character actor in a ton of movies. He's been in Moneyball, Castaway, The Fugitive, 1 Hour Photo, Three Billboards, Shape of Water. He's been all around. Eagle Eye, interestingly enough, from the director of the movie I just watched, DJ Caruso. Um, he is a great actor and he shows his acting skills again in this. I think he plays a very, very scary villain, a very intimidating one, without going super over the top. Um, Donald Cerrone, or Cowboy Cerrone, uh, plays Jeb. He's credited as Cowboy. He is a UFC fighter. He is Hattie's husband. I think he does a pretty good job here. I've heard a lot of people say that his and Gina Carano's acting show that MMA fighters shouldn't act. I completely disagree. Um, Again, I think he does a better job acting than Gina, but Gina is more physical, I'd say, with her performances. Kind of in the same way that Cynthia Rothrock was, where Cynthia Rothrock had her moments, and so does Gina, and I will mention those. She's kind of similar to Cynthia Rothrock in that way, where her acting is mostly through how she moves, how she composes herself, rather than how she talks and how she, you know, audibly acts. Um, but Donald, I think, did a pretty good job here, actually. Heath Freeman plays Goldtooth. He's one of the bad guys. He was fine. Gabriel Kane Day-Lewis, who is Daniel Day-Lewis's son, plays the kid. I actually was impressed by him. I've never seen him in a film before. This is his first feature length film, I think. Let me make sure about that. No. Okay, he's technically been in feature length films before, but not in this big of a role. He's been in two other movies. But I think he composed himself very well. I think maybe not as good as Daniel Day-Lewis, of course, but I still think he did a good job. Reese Becker as Will, the son, um, he did a really good job too. Another good child actor. I think the Daily Wire knows how to get actors who like good child actors or directors who can work well with children because he did a really good job actually. Um, Travis Mills. No, wait, not Travis Mills. Uh, Tyler Fisher plays long hair. He's another one of the bandits. I like him too. He really played the crazy role well. He's in another Daily Wire movie called Lady Ballers, which I do want to review at some point. Maybe after I see Hyperions, because I'm kind of going in order. Um, but yeah, I liked him. He's also in a new show from Daily Wire called Mr. Bircham, which is like an animated comedy. I haven't seen the first two episodes yet. And Matthias Hughes plays Mr. Samuelson. This is one thing I will say against the movie. Matthias Hughes should have been in it more. Because Matthias Hughes, if you don't recognize the name, he's been in a ton of movies as like henchman or like henchman to a bigger bad guy. He's been in a lot of B movies like Dark Angel with Dolph Lundgren. He was, I think, the main villain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was the main villain in that. He was in Dragon Wars, which I didn't mind that movie. TC 2000, Green Street 2, Kickboxer 2, No Retreat, No Surrender 2, Mission of Justice, Talons of the Eagle, Digital Man. He was, I think, the main villain of that. Black Belt, Bounty Tracker. I've seen multiple movies with this guy. Executive Target. He's in so much. And that is one thing I do want to mention because I do want to go into cons first, I think. Um, that is one thing I will say. Matthias Hughes as Mr. Samuelson has kinda two scenes, but he's kind of just there to be like, "Oh, look, it's Matthias Hughes. Oh, he's gone." And I will say that was disappointing to me because I really do like Matthias. I understand he's not like a big part of the story or anything, but could we have at least seen him like beat up a guy, like beat up one of the bad guys? It's kind of like one of the recent movies I've seen, Chief of Station, directed by Jesse B. Johnson, who clearly is somebody who knows how to stage a fight scene. And then you have Daniel Bernhardt being one of your villains, and then you don't give him any fight scenes with the main characters. It it just felt like a bit of a cop out. And that's kind of how I feel here. Like I understand Matthias is like how old is Matthias? I don't know. But he's a very accomplished fighter and he's still very physically imposing even in his age. He's probably like in his mid 60s or something, but like he's still very imposing. and I think could have been like it could have been cool for him to like face off against the well, that's kind of getting in the way of what I wanted. When I saw the ads for this, I was not fully expecting this like d kind of down to earth, kind of like muted Western that's more focused on like attention to detail of guns back in the day, like how bad of shots people are for the most part of the movie. And the part of like people just like I was kind of expecting Gina Carano doing a film like this again, which Scorched Earth I do really recommend. I think it's one of her better films for sure that she starred in. Even though I don't think I've seen a movie starring her that I've hated so far, I liked. Actually, I have to look up because um because I've seen Haywire, I've seen Heist, which she's not really a big part of Heist. Movie she starred in: Extraction, Haywire, Terror on the Prairie, In the Blood, Daughter of the Wolf, Scorched Earth. Of those, ones that I wasn't crazy on, Daughter of the Wolf might be my least favorite of the movies she's starred in. Because Extraction, I remember thinking it was fine enough. Uh, this movie I like. Haywire, I really, really like. I think the fights in it are insanely brutal, and I really did enjoy the story. Um, I didn't see Kickboxer Vengeance. Heist, I th if she starred in that and it was the same as it is, I probably wouldn't care for it even more. Um, In the Blood, I do like, but and Scorched Earth, I think is a really fun Western. It's definitely one up there in Gina Carano films. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I say Western, but um, it's kind of more of a end of the world type thing but the way that it carries itself is like a Western. A lot of the gunfights and a lot of the action feel very Western inspired. Um, And I did enjoy the casting. Ryan Robbins is the villain. I really enjoy him. I like John Hannah. I like Dean S. Jagger. The casting worked for the film. With this film, again, it is a bit more of a muted, like slow burn kind of thriller set in a Western kind of thing. And I will say the advertising does make it out to be kind of an action movie when it really isn't. If you count this as an action movie, I'd say you should count The International with Clive Owen as an action movie when there's one action scene in the entire movie. But I still really like that film, The International. It's just I didn't like how the advertising made it out to be this like action spy thriller when it really is kind of a slow burn conspiracy thriller. And here, even with that, I still did enjoy the film. I didn't think it got really boring for the most part. I never felt bored by what was going on in it. I was more so I was invested in the main characters, and I think that Gina Carano knows her audience, but I also can understand people who were expecting a more like fight-based movie, kind of like Haywire, because not really any of Gina Carano's movies since Haywire have gotten back to the level of choreography that was in that film. Because Haywire had some expertly done fights. Some people might think that they aren't well shot. I think they're pretty well shot for sure. But I legitimately had a lot of fun with that film. And while I can always say there could have been more fights or more action in the film, which there could have been, none of her films since then have really utilized her martial arts experiences as much. Kind of in the same way where Scott Adkins will be in a bigger budget movie like John Wick, and then they put him in a fucking fat suit. Or John Wick Chapter 4, and then they'll put him in a fat suit, have him do really shit looking choreography, to be honest. Because he's a very fast martial artist, and they keep wasting him in these coming years, and I hope this isn't what Gina Carano falls into. I'm fine with her branching out and trying to flex her acting chops, but you can combine that with doing a like more lighthearted movie or like a big martial arts extravaganza type movie. That would be sick. I'd love that. But anyway, on the cinematography of the film is it's a very specific thing. I have not seen a lot of Michael Polish's other movies, and I'm going to talk about the director in a second. But this film is very muted, cinematography wise. It's very simple. Like if somebody on a horse is coming up, it's just going to be a long shot of them coming up. In the house, there's like slight dollying or just like on a tripod, kind of A24-esque, but it never annoyed me. It felt more like they were just like, okay, these are the we're not gonna like do all of this shit. We're just gonna tell it like it is. It sorry, somebody messaged me. And it it's not like a it's not trying to be like all the other westerns that are like, oh, colorful and all that. They do that well. Um, they I'm fine with this decision. It never really bothered me throughout the film. But I can see it bothering some people, and some people say, "Oh, the cinematography shit." I don't think the cinematography shit, and even then, this film makes up for it with some gorgeous shots of Montana. If I'm being perfectly honest, the shots of Montana are so beautiful. Like, really nice shots of clouds too, and I do think that enhances the like atmosphere that the film is going for, the beautifulness of the landscapes contrasted to the pretty unrelenting violence. This film does get very violent. Um, I mean, it's not Terrifier 2 violent, obviously. I find it annoying when people do that, but it's not Terrifier 2 violent, but it is a violent film. And if you're into that, you are. If you're not, you're probably not going to be into this film. Um, the way the action is shot, I say action, the way the gunfights are shot works very well. There's some nice destruction of property in this film. All, everything is real, no fake elements. On a $2 million budget like this film looks fucking great. Really, it really does. Also compared to the fact that Run Hide Fight was 1.5 million. I know they Daily Wire didn't make it, they made this. But they're showing that they know how to stretch the budget, and at no point did this film feel cheap because very easily on in a film like this that's mostly in one place, it can feel very cheap. And when they do go out of it, the western town sets actually look pretty cool. Like, and it doesn't look exactly like the one that every other western uses, which is nice. But yeah, like I, I don't think this film looks cheap. Um, some very nice bits where the like guys are shooting back and there's like glass flying or like woods getting punctured. It looks very good. Like it is very convincing as a gunfight. And I liked that the guns worked as they do in real life. That is a very, if you're trying to do a realistic Western, that is one thing you have to get down. You can't have somebody firing a revolver and firing like 20 times without reloading. And they do that in this. They don't do that. They do it well in this. Um, Also the might have mentioned this, but the absence of a musical score, I think actually works for this film very well. It works to actually show don't tell of the show don't tell nature of the emotions actually works very well for this, where it's trying to get you to feel the disgust whenever the villains do something bad or whenever the whenever certain things happen in the story, the gunfights definitely feel a lot punchier without music. And I think that could have very easily ruined the tone of the film if they did have a musical score. So definitely an artistic choice that I think worked very well for it. Also, on the subject of the director, I know this review's going on quite long, but the director, Michael Polish, I have not seen a lot of his films. I have only seen one, which was Force of Nature with Mel Gibson, um, Emil Hirsch, Kate Bosworth, David Zayas, which was kind of a similar plot to the Hurricane Heist. Um, which I do like Hurricane Heist more. Force of Nature, I don't think is a terrible film like everybody else says. It's at least a 3 out of 5. There was nothing like abhorrently bad, and I do want to watch Michael Polish's other films. There's one called Twin Falls, Idaho, uh, American Traitor, and Amnesiac. I'm definitely interested in, but I do think that his direction works here. The kind of flat or just like kind of just showing it as it is directing does work here. Uh, Another issue that I did have, um, no, actually, not an issue. Gina Carano, while I did say that her acting is still lacking here and she can definitely improve, she has a couple moments where she does have to like scream that do work very well, and it is hard to do that. I will say, as somebody who has been in theater back when I was a kid, it is hard to fake a scream and make it feel real. And I did legitimately feel something, like legitimately felt something in the story when she did it. So I definitely think she has some parts of it down. Maybe a Western wasn't the right thing, but I do think that she works for most of the film and she does become quite a fucking badass throughout it. There is kind of a character journey to that or character development into that. But yeah, like I've been saying, I do recommend that people watch these films, at least the ones that I've seen so far. I have two left to review. Um, The Hyperions and Lady Ballers. Yeah, so far I've just enjoyed the fucking uh movies for what they are. Again, neither this nor Shut In have been as good as Run Hide Fight, I'd say, but I still really enjoyed this one. So yeah, that was my review of Terror on the Prairie. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door.